Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
And it's our TOEIC unit for the month of October. And today we're talking about insurance, but more specifically, we're talking about travel insurance. Most people probably have some insurance policies that they've bought over the years, life insurance, medical insurance, and things like that. But have you ever thought about buying insurance before you travel overseas? What happens if you're climbing up Mount Fuji in Japan and you fall and break your leg? What's going to happen? I understand that medical costs in Japan are really, really high.
Yeah, that would be a scary thing if you had no insurance. I've started to buy it now that I'm a little older. But yeah, it's something that you want to look into, especially if you're going to be doing some risky sports. You know, some people like to go on vacation and take part in risky sports or things that could be a little dangerous. You might want to check into that. And of course, nowadays, the flights on any airline are a mess. So you might want to look into that as well. We're going to learn more about this by first participating in an interview with somebody who has invited Phoebe Kim. I'm going to be reading Phoebe's part to talk more about her perspective on travel insurance. She is a big traveler. And then day 2, this is a 2-day unit because it's our TOEIC unit. We're going to cover some of the kind of travel insurance offered by one particular company we made up. It's not a real company. But the first thing we need to do, as we always do, is listen to the conversation, and then we'll be back.
Welcome back, listeners. Today we're joined by Phoebe Kim, an enthusiastic traveler who has explored over 30 countries. She's here to share her invaluable perspective on travel insurance. Welcome, Phoebe.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Can you start by sharing a time when travel insurance really came in handy?
Absolutely. A particularly memorable incident was during a foodie adventure in Thailand a few years back. While enjoying the local cuisine, I contracted severe food poisoning and ended up hospitalized. The medical costs were sky high, but fortunately, my travel insurance covered everything.
That's a prime example of why travel insurance is so essential. What about the unexpected, such as delays, interruptions, or lost luggage? Does insurance cover those?
Yes, it does. For example, one time in Istanbul, I discovered my luggage had been lost during a layover. My insurance compensated me for necessary purchases, like clothing and toiletries.
That's a compelling reason to have good coverage. Can you share more about what our listeners should consider when choosing a policy?
It's crucial to match the policy with your destination and activities. Consider if you're traveling to remote areas or engaging in daring sports that require additional coverage. Check the policy's exclusions, like those for epidemics, and look beyond the cheapest options to assess coverage limits and deductibles.
Excellent insights, Phoebe. We'll take a short break and then explore the essentials of claiming insurance. Stay tuned. Okay, everybody, it's time for us to discuss the contents of today's lesson. The title is Phoebe's Guide to Picking the Perfect Travel Insurance. Okay, so again, our lesson today is in the form of a radio interview, and it's all about this woman named Phoebe who has some experience with travel insurance, and this is her guide to picking the perfect travel insurance. It's her advice that she gives us. She's being asked questions by the host, and she's answering his questions, and those questions, of course, have to do with travel insurance.
So, the host says, welcome back, listeners. They're going to be interviewing Phoebe Kim, as Tom just said. She has traveled to over 30 countries, so she loves traveling. We've got people out there that travel all the time. They're perhaps travel writers. I know somebody whose job is to review beds in hotels. That's all she does. So she travels and just lives her life in hotel rooms, which I would actually hate, and sleeps on beds and then reports back to the management about how she feels about their beds. So there are lots of different jobs out there, actually, that you could check into if you're a traveler. I hate flying. They've made it miserable, with all the security and then the flight delays. But some people still love it. I try to avoid flying if I can. But she loves it. She's probably young, and she's here to share her invaluable perspective. If something's invaluable, it's priceless. It's worth a lot. Maybe it's something that you can't just get. She's gotten it through her experience, and sometimes that's the only way to get a perspective on something is to actually go through it. Perspective is viewpoint, what your feelings are about something.
Okay, so Phoebe is polite. She says, "Thank you for having me on this program. It's great to be here." And then the host begins with a question. Can you start by sharing a time when travel insurance really came in handy? If something comes in handy, it's useful, it's beneficial to you. So yes, can you give us an experience you had when you needed to use travel insurance and it really helped you out? I haven't really had this kind of experience myself. I have bought travel insurance before, but thankfully, I've never needed to use it. And I think for most people, it's best that you don't use the insurance, that everything goes smoothly, you don't get robbed or injured or whatever. It's best that you don't need the insurance in the first place. But here the host wants to have an example from Phoebe when she actually used the travel insurance when it was useful for her.
She says she absolutely can share some experiences that she's had when she's actually needed her travel insurance that she had bought in advance. You can't buy the insurance after the accident happens. Remember, you have to buy it before you get on the plane. You can even buy some travel insurance inside an airport. If you look, there are some vending machines that will allow you to do that. I did that once, actually.
There are actually agents here in Taiwan. We often have talked to them before, but later on we started to use our regular insurance agent to buy those policies before we went to the airport.
Oh, great. Well, she's got a particularly memorable incident that happened to her. If something's memorable, it's something that you remember forever. It's something that you can't forget. It's worth remembering. Or maybe it was just so unusual or bad that you remembered it for a long time. Typically, we use memorable for something positive, but you can use it for something because it was really unusual. So she was on a foodie adventure. If you're a foodie, and it can be a person who's called a foodie, it's somebody who loves to try very gourmet dishes that people don't usually eat, or parts of an animal or a plant that people usually don't get an opportunity to try. I'm not a foodie. I like comfort food, which is just home-cooked dishes and meals. But if you're a foodie, you want to go to other countries and try out some of their dishes that you never get a chance to try if you live abroad. So she went to Thailand. She wanted to try out their food there. And while enjoying the local cuisine refers to a particular country or area, or even a culture's food, she contracted severe food poisoning. Ooh, that's not a good thing.
No, it isn't. And she ended up hospitalized. To end up means that's what happened to you at the end. She was in the hospital. You are hospitalized when you are put in a hospital for treatment. And yes, she went to Thailand for a foodie adventure, which makes a lot of sense because Thai food is very famous all over the world.
Yeah.
Lots of people say their favorite kind of food is Thai food. And of course, lots of people go to, say, France or Italy or Japan or whatever to try out the food in those different countries. But Thailand offers a lot of opportunities for foodies there, so you can try all sorts of different things. But unfortunately, Thailand is in the tropics there, and maybe you come from a country where you're not used to the different kinds of bacteria in the food or whatever. So,
and they're outside. They have a lot of street food.
Right, yeah. Exactly. So she got food poisoning, which means there was probably some bacteria in the food, and it made her sick, so she had to stay in the hospital.
I wanted to mention they use this verb to contract, not contract, not 合约, contract. To contract something like an illness or a disease means you get it, you acquired it, you were exposed to something that was contagious. So she was exposed to some bad bacteria, it sounds like, which can happen. your body is not used to the particular bacteria in another country. We're just not used to it. The Thai folks are around it all the time. They've gotten used to things. I know every time I went to Mexico and drank water, I always got food poisoning.
Okay.
So I knew never to drink water. I would always get a bottle if I could. But sometimes it's just your own system not being used to something. You probably have been to a restaurant where the whole table ate the same dish. It was only you that got sick. Maybe your body did not respond well to some sort of ingredient or bacteria in the food. Well, she was so sick, she ended up in the hospital, which is awful, especially in a foreign country with a strange language. That's really scary. The medical costs were sky high. If you want to emphasize how expensive something is, you can say, wow, that restaurant meal was sky high, but worth it. So it was really expensive, but fortunately, she said my travel insurance covered or paid for everything.
Right. So if you go to some countries where the medical payments are quite high or the expenses are quite high, you might want to have some travel insurance. And I've heard horror stories from people going to the USA who did not have insurance. And as you know, they have some medical problems in the USA regarding costs and things like that.
Yeah, no kidding.
And I guess Thailand is similar here. So if you don't have some kind of national health insurance, if you're not covered by that and you get in trouble when you're a foreign traveler there, you might have some problems. So yeah, check into some travel insurance. And her travel insurance covered everything, so she was okay. She probably had to pay for the stuff first out of her own pocket, but then her insurance company paid her back or reimbursed her, as we say in English. Now, here's what the host says next. That's a prime example of why travel insurance is so essential. That's why it's so important. That's a good example that teaches us how travel insurance is important. What about the unexpected, such as delays, interruptions, or lost luggage? Does insurance cover those? Yes, those are some important concerns. And so the first one is delays, okay? So, of course, a delay is when your flight will not take off when it's supposed to, and that can cause you some trouble there. And yes, indeed, you might need to get some compensation from your insurance for those delays. You might miss a business meeting or something like that, or you might miss your connecting flight or whatever. So, yes, that could be a major hassle. So maybe you'd like to have the insurance cover that. And we've also got something called interruptions, which I believe is probably something that causes your trip not to flow smoothly. You're trying to get from one place to another, but something slows you down. It interrupts you. And there are all sorts of different sorts of examples regarding interruptions.
Right. So you might be busy studying at home, and a little brother or sister starts making a lot of noise. That's an interruption. It stops you from doing something that you're trying to do. So yeah, there's so many different types of delays or interruptions as you travel. And then the host says, does insurance cover those? And Phoebe says, yes. So for example, here's another example or an experience of hers. One time she was in Istanbul, which is in Turkey, and she discovered her luggage had been lost during a layover. A layover is a brief stop in another city or place as you're on your way to your eventual or final destination. Sometimes a layover is just a couple of hours. Sometimes you'll actually want a long layover. Maybe you have a couple days there, and it's a way to see a city free because you don't have to pay extra money. I don't know if they still do that, but when I was growing up, we used to try to get those long delays so we could see another city on the way to our final destination. So yeah, this happened to her. She lost her luggage, and my insurance compensated me, paid her back for necessary purchases like clothing and toiletries. Toiletries refers to shampoo, soap, maybe you need a razor, those things that we use for to shower and clean up and just feel better about our hygiene. They paid her back for those necessary purchases.
Which she probably had in her luggage and she couldn't get at those things. So the insurance company paid her for those items there, clothing and toiletries. Again, toilet paper, toothpaste, toothbrushes, combs, etc. Now the host has some more things to say here. That's a compelling reason to have good coverage. Yes, that's a good reason. If something's compelling, it's logical. It makes us think that it's logical. So yes, it's a good reason to have good coverage. Now, that's a word we use when we talk about insurance coverage, which means what the insurance will cover, what it will pay you for if you have some sort of problem. So yeah, that's good coverage. And of course, when you buy insurance, you want to ask the agent, what kind of coverage does this policy offer? Will it pay for this? Will it pay for that? Etc.
Yeah, if you're renting a car at the airport, for example, you'll want to know what the coverage is like. Are you covered, or are you financially backed by this company in case somebody else hits you? Or is that money that you have to pay for? You need to find out exactly what the coverage is. What do they cover? What do they offer to pay you back for if some accident happens? So the host wants to know if she can share more about what the listeners should consider when choosing a policy. And she goes on to say it's crucial or really important, it's vital, essential to match the policy with your destination and activities. I think we kind of mentioned if you're going to be doing some extreme sports, you may need to get some insurance to cover that. Not all policies will cover doing bungee jumping or something crazy because they think that's nuts, and too many people have been hurt. Sometimes it's expensive to cover those sorts of things, so an insurance company will just say, we're not offering that coverage anymore. We have to pay out too many policies because people get hurt. So that's something you really need to consider. Where you're going, are you going to kind of a danger zone in the world? Does it look like there's a war that's going to break out? Or do they currently have a lot of kidnappings like they do in Mexico? You need to check that stuff out. And then your own activities, you have to take that into consideration too.
Right. So it's crucial to match the policy with your destination and with what you're doing. For example, if you're going to have a foodie adventure, you want to make sure you're covered for food poisoning, etc., etc. And yes, consider if you're traveling to remote areas or engaging in daring sports, as you said, like bungee jumping or what's it called? Mountain climbing or or what's that one where you jump off high surfaces or whatever?
Parquet or parkour?
Parkour, that's one, but there's another one. I just can't think of what it is now. But in any case, there are some very dangerous sports that you might participate in if you go to, say, New Zealand or to Australia or whatever. So you want to make sure that the insurance policy covers such activities, and check the policy's exclusions, like those for epidemics, and look beyond the cheapest options to assess coverage limits and deductibles. So here we've got an exclusion, which means something that the policy will not cover. Okay, so they may cover different kinds of situations you may come across, but if it's during a pandemic, if you get COVID-19 or something, no, we're not going to cover that. That is not included. It is excluded from the policy, so that is an exclusion. And then we've also got a term we use often in insurance, deductibles, which means something you can deduct or take away from the whole.
A deductible is the amount of money you have to pay first before the insurance company will jump in and cover the rest of the expenses that you incurred or that you had to pay for. The deductible is very important. Don't get a high deductible, otherwise the insurance isn't really valuable. So look into that, and the host says excellent insights, and insight is a deep understanding of something, probably because of experience that you have. So she's got some excellent insights. They're going to take a break, and while they do that, we're going to listen to our Chinese teacher, and then we'll be back to talk about some of these useful expressions.
听众朋友大家好，我是 Anna。我们今天要来谈这个多益啊，多益其实都跟生活的主题啊蛮接近的。比如说像我们暑假啊，其实大家都可能去日本啊，去哪里啊，这个疫情结束终于可以好好的玩了。国外啊，到处都是台湾人。但是你在旅游的时候，你有没有特别买一个旅游保险呢？我们这2天就来谈标题当中的 travel insurance 旅游保险。那这个旅游保险啊，我们的多益今天做成一个访谈性的节目，主持人请到了 Phoebe。 这个 Phoebe 很特别哦，因为她去过30多个国家，有很丰富的经验，所以在第一个 host 第一个主持人这个地方就告诉我们听众朋友啊，邀请到了 热爱旅游的 Phoebe Kim， 因为她去过30多个国家嘛，所以她真的是经验丰富。不过在这个第一个 host 里面的第2句，我们特别注意一下，它有一个限定用法关系子句哦。那除了限定用法关系子句之外，可以特别注意一下，它的先行词其实就是带着同位语啦。逗点前面的人名 Phoebe Kim 跟逗点之后的 an enthusiastic traveler， 它就是同位语。同位语的意思就是等于的这个概念，就用逗点等号的这个概念。好，那这个 enthusiastic 就是很热切的，很充满热情的，很热爱旅游的。他因为已经去了30几个国家，所以当然对于这个 travel insurance 旅游保险这件事情，他的 perspective 他的观点啦，他的经验都会非常的 invaluable。 为什么这么说？在第3句同样第一个 host 这个地方，我们要把这个形容词的 invaluable 抓出来。好，我们先从名词或者是动词的 value 这个字谈起。 V-A-L-U-E value 如果当名词是价值嘛，当动词指的是值多少。那 valuable 加 able 去一加 able， 这个 valuable 指的就是很有价值哦，就是很贵重的意思嘛。可是 invaluable 前面的 in 我们都会说是否定的意思，那 invaluable 难道是没有价值的意思吗？不是耶，它其实这里的 in 否定掉的是后面的 value， 就是衡量价值这个动作。所以 invaluable 其实指的是衡量不出价值的。什么东西衡量不出价值？如果一个垃圾大家不要的东西，我们对它的价值评断就是零元，这是衡量得出价值哦。所以 invaluable 所谓衡量不出价值指的是无价，是超级有价值的意思。还有一个同义词就叫做 priceless， P-R-I-C-E-L-E-S-S， 这个 price 就是标价，价格嘛，标价。L-E-S-S 指的是没有，标不出价格的东西不是0元的东西哦，是往上非常珍贵的东西。所以 invaluable 这个字啊，常常会出现在这个综合测验啊、克漏字的选项里面，并不是没有它的道理哦，因为这个字大家常常容易混淆。好，总而言之呢，赶快来看一下 Phoebe 她有什么样的经验。在第2个 host 当中，当然这个主持人就好要赶快问一下，有没有什么东西啊，是这个旅游的这个 travel insurance 旅游保险真的可以派上用场的啊。在这句为什么要特别挑出来呢？因为第2个 host 的这句它是一个关系子句，关系子句的 when 是一个副词的概念呢。好，我们来先把先行词 a time 某一次的经验，这个先把它划线起来。后面的 when 到句尾问号这个地方先做个括号。那 when 我们说是在那个时候，你先把它等于 and at that time， 而在那个时候，我们说关系副词的关系就是连接这个功能，连接的关系嘛。那副词的意思就是后面的主词、动词、受词什么都不缺，句子很完整。我们来读读看 ，Travel insurance really came in handy。什么都不缺，没缺主词，也没缺受词。那这个时候句子可以无限添加副词，所以判断之下，不缺主词，不缺受词。这里的 when 当然一定是一个副词在这边，而在那个时候真的派上用场。好，什么时候派上用场呢？第2个 Phoebe 这个时候就回答了。我看我们大概出去这个旅游的时候啊，最常出现就是拉肚子啊，吃坏肚子，没错。他甚至呢有一次是出现了食物中毒，出现在第2个 Phoebe 第3句 food poisoning 的这个时候。好，这时候呢我们就要同样看这一句咯。第3句前面的 while enjoying， 你们记得我们在谈这个纽西兰这个皇后镇的时候，特别讲到一个连接词保留的分词构句，在这里同样又出现了。而且连接词保留的分词构句啊，蛮常保留的就是 while 表示 when 时间这个连接词。好，那我们就按照字面上的意思去看哦。当正在享用当地美食，我呢居然遭遇到了严重的食物中毒。这样子也很通顺，对不对？所以除非说今天这个连接词保留的分词构句它是出现在综合测验课漏字啦，或者是所谓的文意选择， 要不然其实它不太会影响我们阅读理解哦。好，那食物中毒，当然在国外就医啊，哇，那个医药费真的是超高的，超高。这个第二个 Phoebe 第4句，我们这边的 sky high 可以把它学起来 ，sky high， 而且他居然还住院，有没有？好险，他有保 travel insurance， 这个时候全部就理赔了。那当然，除了食物中毒之外，为什么旅游保险还是很重要呢？因为还有一些意外的情况啊，例如在第3个主持人这边提到的第2句里面的 delays， 飞机延误啦 ，interruptions， 行程中断啦 ，or lost luggage， 或者是行李遗失啦等等之类的，这些都可以做一个补偿。所以我们在第3个 Phoebe 这边看到，他就提到他自己曾经在伊斯坦堡转机的时候，发现行李遗失了，后来保险就赔了嘛。那这个转机这个字我们把它学起来哦，在第3个 Phoebe 第2句最后面 layover， 这是转机的意思。不过这边的时态啊，大家也可以稍微看一下，因为当时在伊斯坦堡他发现 discovered 行李不见，那行李不见一定是发现之前就不见了，所以那个行李不见啊，用的是过去的过去，就用 had pp had been lost。 好，那最后面呢，我们就来看一下这个如果真的要投保的时候，到底要保单要处理什么样的事情，我们要如何来选择一个好的保单呢？第4个主词，这个主持人谈的第1句啊，有一个很重要的这个 a good coverage， 保险范围很重要，有时候不能保太少啊，该保的都要保到，对不对？所以到底要怎么样选择保单呢？那个保单英文怎么说？保单的英文出现在第4个 host 第2句最后面 when choosing a policy， 当我们选择保单，所以在这里的 policy 不是什么政策哦，是保单的意思。好，当然 Phoebe 的回答也很重要，你要看你的目的地啊，跟你的这个旅游的活动到底有哪一些，所以你的 policy 跟你的 destination and activities 两个要 match。 第4个 Phoebe 第1句当中的 match A with B， 把 A 跟 B 符合起来要相配，这个是很重要的哦。所以如果你真的去纽西兰，你又要高空弹跳，哇，买的这些保险呢，要保足保好，要保够。不过有一些东西像是疫情啊，或者是有一些其他的东西会有一些相关规定，比如说会排除疫情之类的，甚至你要评估一些保额啊、自付额之类的。所以我们明天会带大家啊看一个很实际的保单，带大家看一下到底我们今天在旅游的时候，旅游保险单长什么样子。我是安娜，我们明天见。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Okay, that was a very informative conversation. It was illuminating. It gave us a lot of information regarding travel insurance. Thanks for that interview between the host and Phoebe. And now we've got some useful expressions that have come from the contents of our lesson for today. For example, if the host is asking you questions, then you want to give explanations. Okay, so when you express your opinion, there are different kinds of phrases and expressions that you can use.
Here's one. What I mean is, we should focus on quality rather than quantity in our production. Sometimes you're in a business meeting and someone misunderstands what you're trying to communicate. And so this is a way to further explain, to make something clear to them. Well, what I mean is, and then use words that are more simple, maybe to clarify or to make clear what you're trying to talk about or explain in that meeting. We use these a lot, actually.
Well, I've heard this often expressed as my meaning. What my meaning is, that's how people in Taiwan often translate that into English, but we don't say it that way. We usually use the word mean as a verb. This is what I mean. What do you mean? I understand what you mean. We don't say, I understand your meaning. I've heard that so many times here in Taiwan. We just don't say that. I understand what you mean, or I simply understand you. So yeah, what I mean is that we should focus more on quality rather than quantity in our production, which makes a lot of sense. Now, here's the second useful expression regarding giving explanations. The reason for this is that frequent communication prevents misunderstandings and fosters teamwork. So when you've presented some information, you might want to back it up with some logic. So yeah, the reason for this. This is the reason why we're doing this. We want to have frequent communication in order to prevent those misunderstandings. If we talk enough, we won't have these misunderstandings and we won't have these backstabbing conversations about people who are trying to cheat us or whatever because of a misunderstanding. If we understand things, then everything should go okay. And also we'll have good teamwork.
Number 3, well, the thing is, which isn't really much of an explanation, but when somebody feels like your opinion is invalid or there's suddenly some tension in the room, they're talking about the market here, and you think they should be more cautious than what they're proposing. Sometimes there's a lot of emotion in the room. And so just to kind of, it's a way to get some time so you can think, well, the thing is, you want to say that if somebody is really misunderstanding and you want to calm things down. Well, the thing is, this is the reason why. And then you give them more explicit a more explicit understanding of what you mean, which hopefully will calm them down. But yeah, well, the thing is, it's just not the right time. Well, the thing is, you got to be careful. So it's something that you'll hear a lot, and it's just a way to give an explanation.
Right. Yeah, the thing is, the market is unpredictable. We don't know if people are selling or buying. So yeah, we need to be careful. We need to be cautious. Now, here's our discussion question for today. Have you or someone you know ever had to use travel insurance? What was the experience like?
I haven't personally, but I went on a trip with a friend to England, and we got a car to travel around in, and she ran into another car that was parked.
Oh, no.
So we ended up having to pay travel insurance, and some of the car insurance policy kind of kicked in as well. So, yeah, I think it's always a safe thing to do. We have that phrase, better safe than sorry. Insurance can always cover things that you weren't planning on having happen to you.
Interesting. Well, I've never needed to use the travel insurance before. I've had some experience here in Taiwan where my wife broke her leg in a different part of Taiwan, and we had to pay the hospital in cash for the expenses. So we had the insurance, but we didn't have their insurance or something, so we had to pay cash up front and then get compensation from our insurance company later on. I don't know if travel insurance would have helped because it's here in Taiwan. But every time we travel overseas, especially to the USA, we buy some travel insurance before we go because you never know what's going to happen. If you go to a hospital in the USA, you might go bankrupt.
That is true, and you don't want to go bankrupt. That's all the time we have for day 1. We're going to come back and look further at a particular company called Travel Safe and what kind of plan they offer, what kind of policies they offer. But for now, we got to say goodbye. We thank you for joining us, and for more English Digest and more just English help, check out our social media page at Facebook or YouTube, our YouTube channel. That's it for today. For English Digest, I'm Stephanie.
I'm Tom. Goodbye.
Bye.